Welcome to this short recording as part of the series of CPR webinar briefs. Mobile phone use is a topic that comes up in almost every school I visit. Schools are often asking for advice or looking to share good practice around how other schools are managing the use of mobile phones. Faced with similar questions from schools across the country, in late February the Department for Education published new guidance on mobile phone use in schools. While this guidance is specific to schools in England, the issue of mobile phone use is something that schools across the UK and Ireland are grappling with. Recently, more and more media outlets have been covering mobile phone use in schools and the impact it may be having on young people. In fact, it's even made the front pages of many newspapers. Reports often link mobile phones to disruption to learning, reduced focus in lessons, increases in bullying, and concerns that young people are struggling to communicate effectively with one another. As a result, many of these media outlets have called on governments to take action and do something that will help teachers and school staff to navigate what can sometimes feel like a minefield when it comes to the use of mobile phones, and that's both inside and outside of the school day. Every school, regardless of the age of pupils, is required to deliver e-safety education in an age-appropriate way. In my experience, this nearly always includes discussions around mobile phones and social media. Alongside that, almost every school already has a policy on mobile phone use. These policies vary wildly. Some schools require students to hand their phones in at the start of the day and collect them at the end. Others provide lockers or storage boxes where phones are kept during school hours. Some schools use individual phone pouches that students place their phone in during the day, sometimes using technology that blocks the signal and locks the pouch. And in some schools, the policy is simpler. Phones should be switched off and out of sight. And if they are seen, then they're confiscated. So schools are already taking a variety of approaches. But the key question is, what does the DfE guidance actually say? The guidance published on February the 19th makes the government's position clearer. While it's the guidance rather than mandatory requirement, the language used is concise and direct, leaving very little room for interpretation. It even goes as far as outlining expectations for schools with sixth forms too. For many schools, this guidance will not introduce anything radically new. As I mentioned earlier, most schools already have some form of mobile phone policy in place. What the guidance also emphasises is the importance of educating students about both the risks of mobile phone use and the benefits of a phone-free environment. The aim is to help students see the value of these policies and support a school culture where being without a phone during the day just becomes the norm. The guidance also supports schools by sharing examples and case studies of how schools have successfully created phone-free environments. These include the approaches I mentioned earlier, such as students handing phones in at the beginning of the day, or using lockers where phones can be securely stored. Those individual phone pouches that are magnetically locked during the school day and unlocked when the students leave. I've seen all of these approaches used in practice, and I've seen them work, although with varying degrees of success. In one school I worked with, for example, a student managed to acquire a powerful magnet that could unlock those pouches and was charging their classmates £5 to unlock their phones during the day. I can only hope that he was taking business studies at GCSE. One of the most encouraging aspects of the guidance is the emphasis it places on communication. Schools are encouraged to clearly communicate their mobile phone policy, not only to students, but also to parents and carers. This helps ensure that all stakeholders understand what the policy is trying to achieve and why it's important. When everyone understands the purpose behind a policy, it becomes far easier to build the support needed for it to succeed. Of course, there is one stakeholder group that is absolutely pivotal to the successful implementation of any school policy. And of course, that group is the staff. The guidance states that all staff should consistently enforce the school's mobile phone policy. There are two words in that sentence that really stand out to me. The first is all. If a school is going to implement a policy that applies to every student, especially one that may not always be popular, it cannot rely on a small group of people to enforce it. It cannot be just senior leaders, behaviour mentors, or heads of year. It has to be everyone, from the head teacher or principal through to teachers, teaching assistants, office staff, site cleaners, whoever. Every member of staff plays a role, which brings us to the second word, consistency. Consistency is something we talk about often in schools and something we all strive for. But the real question is, how do we achieve it? One of the most effective ways to create consistency in schools is through the consistency of language. If staff respond in the same way and use the same wording when addressing behaviour, it helps to support staff and it creates predictability for students, building a consistent experience across the whole school. A helpful starting point is to keep things simple. Avoid using 200 words when 10 will do. Having a simple scripted response means staff are less likely to respond emotionally in the moment. Everyone says the same thing, challenges behaviour in the same way, and the school responds with one clear voice. It also prevents situations where students try to play one member of staff off against another. Another important consideration is the type of language we use. Avoid passive language. Avoid phrasing requests as questions. Instead of saying something like, would you like to put that phone away? Or do you know what will happen if we keep your phone out? We can simply say, you need to put that phone away, or you know the policy on phones. Clear, calm, and assertive. Not aggressive, not angry, no shouting, and no finger wagging. Just a calm, simple instruction. That approach reduces the likelihood of escalation, helps avoid unnecessary conflicts over phones. When we work with schools, we often workshop simple scripted responses for situations like this. We've also created a short guide to help schools develop their own consistent language approach, and you'll find a link to that resource in the description. Thank you for taking the time to watch this CPI webinar brief. If you would like any more information about how CPI can support your school, please do get in touch. Have a lovely day, take care, and bye bye for now.